So today I just wanted to briefly discuss Dylan Dog. This is obviously an Italian comic series which was published by Tiziano Sclavi. The comics themselves are considered to have dealt a lot with, I guess, the goings-on or the ills in modern-day society, sort of a critique very similar to the way zombie films tend to speak out on modern-day society. So Dylan Dog is somewhat of a paranormal investigator. Yeah, similar to that. But yeah, the stories themselves, they're published in Italy, and for some odd reason they take place in New Orleans. And I believe in the US, I'm not sure if they are still published, but for a time they were published by Dark Horse Comics. So these comics themselves, they have been adapted twice. I suppose the more notable would be 1994's Cemetery Man or Della Morte Della More. And we also have 2011's Dylan Dog Dead of Night, which was a 2011 release. The film first released in Italy March 16th of 2011, and then US got their release April 29th of 2011, so just a few months apart. I actually consider this a very enjoyable film. I know a lot of people are just up in arms because this isn't the Dylan Dog, and in my opinion, the filmmakers just make that very obvious throughout the film. The vehicle Dylan drives is actually reverse colors from the vehicle that's driven in the comic. So the film was actually produced by two different companies, Platinum Studios and Hyde Park Entertainment, and the film grossed $4 million worldwide. In the comic, Dylan drives a white convertible Volkswagen Beetle or Bug with a black top, and I believe in the film the colors are reversed if I remember correctly, but I found it a very enjoyable film, and I do want to just point out, I think the reason the colors of the vehicle are reversed is the filmmakers are just admitting, you know, this isn't your Dylan Dog, this is, you know, a different version of Dylan Dog. So they're basically just admitting they've changed the character, he hasn't remained the same. And you know, in my case, I like the film, I find it enjoyable. I'm not at all familiar with the comic series, I'm going to be honest, and with how much it seems to bother everyone else, I'm going to say in my case, ignorance is probably bliss. I know it's not a perfect movie, a lot of people consider it very juvenile age range, junior high, high school, possible target audience, but you know, I really liked the movie. So it does have just a very basic plot. Dylan, as I said, is a paranormal investigator. He left the business because his wife had been murdered by vampires, and he gradually gets sucked back in because one of the cases that he is working on, he originally did drop it, but his friend slash partner was actually murdered. So the only reason he gets back on the case is just to figure out what happened. Along the way, we realize that Elizabeth, the young woman who had hired Dylan, her father actually illegally smuggled artifacts. One of these said artifacts is somewhat of a crucifix type figure, which I believe, if I remember correctly, carries the blood of an ancient vampire. So basically, once injecting this blood into another host, or I guess slave type creature, this person will become Belial, which is somewhat of a demon type creature, or I guess in modern day society most people tend to consider him more of a devil-like creature, just kind of very similar to Lucifer or Beelzebub. So Dylan's partner, Marcus, after being picked up from the morgue, happens to resurrect himself as a zombie, missing an arm. So quite humorously, they had to take him into a, I guess you could say, a body parts shop, and he is given a dark complected arm with tattoos on it, and obviously Marcus is a very light complected man, so I can definitely see the humor in it. Even the introduction to Dylan Dog, which I think is just very humorous. Some man bursts into his office and he's threatening to kill him because he was the private investigator that blew the lid on the man cheating on his wife, and I just think it's very funny, just the smug sarcasm in which Dylan tends to turn around the situation and saying, well, the way to get even on his wife isn't to cheat with someone else, but catch her in the act, since supposedly she was the first one that had cheated, which I guess he had been revenge porking his secretary. It's very humorous to me, just the way that he doesn't tend to show fear or concern, but he very easily turns the situation around and makes a sale. So basically just gets another job out of the other angry spouse. So yeah, I definitely loved that intro to the character. But getting back to where I left off, and sorry for skipping around. So we do have Marcus, who has now become a zombie, and we have this artifact, which we have a vampire clan, which is also trying to get a hold of it, because we have the character Vargas, the current leader of the vampire, which is, I suppose, just trying to raise himself and make vampires into somewhat of the more superior race. Everything pretty much backfires, and at the tail end of the story we realize that Elizabeth isn't the innocent person that she pretended or portrayed herself to be. She's actually a monster hunter, not necessarily an investigator like Dylan himself is. Dylan, for some reason, seems to have somewhat of an appointed title. Basically, the quote-unquote creatures that go bump in the night require someone to act as a peacekeeper and investigate what's going on in order to prevent war from breaking out. And obviously this woman selfishly brings about all of this, just kind of just orchestrated everything, and she basically just wanted to create this Belial creature in order to wipe out all monsters from the face of the earth. So I'd say the ending is fairly obvious. All deserving parties receive their comeuppance, and like I've said, it's a fairly simplistic, basic story, but you know, it's very enjoyable. Obviously, between Dylan Dog and Cemetery Man, you know, everyone's going to go with Cemetery Man. It's a classic, but yes, definitely a very enjoyable film. But those were basically my thoughts on Dylan Dog, and I will talk to you guys later.